Somebody once told me.
We're talking about games and stuff.
It's
With our friends.
Well, it's time for Loot Cast. It's time to cast the loots.
Nailed it.
Man, that was like the most low energy all-star
Woo.
ever done.
Have you
Somebody
have
once
you
told me.
heard Smash Mouth sing it?
Hey, you can say a lot of things about
We were about
Smash
one
Mouth,
notch over that.
but you can't say they're low energy. I don't think
They are now. They're old.
Well, yeah, now, but like that song at its prime was like kind of energetic.
All I know is that if Guy Fieri came out and sung that song himself, he would nail it.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if he would. I think that he would start wheezing about a verse in.
No, he would take you to Flavortown is what he would do.
I mean, it's the opening song to Flavortown the musical. So,
I'm really glad that I've burped at the beginning of both these podcasts.
well, yeah.
Welcome to Lootcast. That's
Oh, here we go.
yeah, here we go. Let's just dive into this shit. I'm Anthony. You know who I am. We have two new to the cast, not necessarily new to the channel, but you guys want to introduce yourselves? So we'll start with you over there, Hat Man.
Well, that was I have a hat on. This is Mike. I'm
Oh, that's your name.
part of
Okay.
Loot Suits.
I always just thought you were Hat Man.
We played games and stuff. It's nice to be back recording after
games and jokes and
a
games.
long hiatus.
Oh God, yeah, it was a long.
This is beautiful.
It feels like nothing changed
No,
when we started back up. Like now, obviously.
well, it's exactly almost a year. Little
Since
over a
we
year.
started.
Yeah,
Because we started uploading. I think this week, last year,
it was right before Halloween last year.
right around this time.
When we premiered with Outlast.
Yeah, with Outlast that had like the worst footage
Yeah,
ever.
we learned a lot.
We learned a lot.
That was the phrase for about a month and a half. We're learning.
and we've restarted, and that phrase has already come back up.
Yep, we're
It's
still learning.
Already been a thing.
Still learning.
But yeah, it's like our anniversary, even though we quit for like 6 months.
Yeah, we did a really great thing with the live stream, and then we just stopped.
And then nothing else happened.
we raised a
after
lot
that.
of money for some really good causes. We ate some hot peppers,
Yeah.
and we had a lot of fun. And then
And then I think just no one wanted to see each other for a while.
yeah, spending 5 days in a barn together was really
Yeah.
brought us a lot closer and ripped us apart all at the same time.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a fun time. But yeah, it feels like nothing's really changed since we started recording again. Now we have the addition of Khalil and Scalisi and Aaron and Josh are part of the main team now, which is awesome. And on Group Loot now, our other guest on the podcast is going to be doing some Group Loot stuff with us and working out some live stream things too. You're going to help us kind of work that whole thing out. So go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited. My name is Cody. I'm actually new to the area, so like this is just all crazy. Just
To the
being down
area
here.
of the internet.
Of the internet. Yeah, I was actually just birthed yesterday, so I'm still super naive when it comes to everything. But
Oh,
It's
we're
a-
gonna have some fun with you then,
it's
my
a,
friend.
it's a
He
ride.
grew up fast.
Yeah, you're the ugliest newborn I've ever seen.
See, I discovered alcohol, and that really boosted my whole.
I didn't think that fetal alcohol syndrome made you like 5'10".
Well, it's when you combine it with a bunch of other things.
Okay,
I'm not going to tell you those things because I don't want you to become a scary man.
fetal alcohol syndrome and human growth hormone, just constants throughout the 9 months of the pregnancy.
Something like that.
I just drink a lot and I put needles in my belly.
Oh, you gave birth? How big was the baby? 200 pounds.
He's already got a full-time job. So that was a bad time to take a drink. But
was.
yeah, so today we're talking Cuphead. Which I mean I'm assuming after the last podcast there'll be very little of what we talk about. But we're gonna attempt to talk Cuphead and gaming difficulties and things. And so you guys just both got to experience Cuphead for the first time, actually playing it
Yes.
right before we
Yeah.
did this.
Yep.
That was both your guys' first times playing it?
Correct.
What were your first reactions to it?
Amazing. But hard.
Butt hard?
But hard.
But hard.
Amazing butt hard.
Yeah, that's a new tagline.
Okay.
Hashtag But Hard 2017.
Butt hard 2017. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
Same thoughts. It's really fun. I mean, we've been talking about that art style and how great and how looking forward to it we as a gaming community. Everyone's been talking about this for years.
For what, 7 years?
Years and
7
years
years
and
is how long
years.
people have been waiting for this game.
What I think surprised the general population was the difficulty. Not that it is a hard game. It can be frustrating at times. But the overarching thing that everyone talks about is that it is still a fair game as well. And it harkens back to the old school platforming shooters, like Contra.
Yeah, that's been my, like, I think my best comparison that I've had for it was it's like a Mickey Mouse Contra. It's old school, like Fleischer animations, Disney animations, like very early stuff.
What I found strange
in a
is
Contra format.
even just the 10-15 minutes I played it before we started recording here, was I felt a weird sense of nostalgia, even though that animation style was way before my time.
Yeah, it's and I think everyone did. Like, I think everyone kind of felt a nostalgia for it, but like no one ever grew up with that.
Right,
I mean, the
it's like,
closest any of us had was like Looney Tunes stuff, and that's not even
no,
the
but that was way
same-
more polished animation
yeah,
style.
It was
like,
much cleaner.
like this
and-
is vintage Disney, Popeye, Betty Boop,
yeah.
that kind of stuff, and I'm sitting there like, oh man, it's nice to see something like this again. And I'm like, wait, like
But I never
I
did.
saw reruns of that shit, but I never actually experienced that when it was the thing, when that was
I mean,
the
we
style.
watch Spooky Skeleton every once in a while, which I think is the closest to that.
Maybe
we
that's
ever,
why I love it so
truly
much.
experience ourselves. But yeah, it's weird. Like 2017 is a weird year because it's not just this, but Bendy and the Ink Machine it all harkens back to that same animation style. It's weird to have two games come out in the same year that take on that. I mean, obviously Bendy doesn't as an aesthetic draw from that as much, but like all the characters and like it has the cartoons that are in the game where it's all based on that style of animation in this studio. And I think it's cool.
No, I can't help but think that with the hype coming around Cuphead,
and I was
for as long as
just
it
gonna say
was,
that.
is that's going to drive the industry to be like, look, they're getting all this hype and all this press. Maybe we should try something like that. And I truly believe in the next couple of years we're going to see a lot of people attempt this, and some might succeed better, just because that generally happens. But I think we're also going to see a lot of really, really bad versions of this.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing I think that Cuphead's kind of safe because it is all hand drawn, and you can't just copy that aesthetic. You can't just copy and paste all of that into a game. And I think we're going to see a lot of bad attempts at it, but it'll be very clear very early that they're not true, like heartfelt. Like this was a work of passion for years, and you can tell as soon as you start playing it. And I think the only thing that it's not totally safe from would be like a corporatization of that style, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to crank something out fast enough to draw into the hype is to have some big studio try to do it. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen in a way where it's like, oh well, this works, so throw it on this game and then we'll call it good. But if we can see some cool stuff come out of this and some really neat new projects that work in this style, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see like the same game come out of other people, but I think you'll see the same art style come out of other people.
Yeah.
Like I don't think anybody's going to go and make another Mega Man platformer 50s cartoon style game, but I think if you were to take this art style and like say like an RPG and things like that, I think that would also be really cool.
Yeah, and I hope things like that happen. I hope it does propel the industry, and even if it's not necessarily the art style, but it's okay to try new things.
Yeah.
Because we've kind of hit a lull as an industry here. The indie gaming market was okay. They were always trying new weird graphical styles and stuff like that. But in terms of stuff that was getting to the bigger picture, lots of people playing it, lots of people seeing it, being a top seller on Steam consistently, that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's good to see a Risk take off. And I hope it propels some other developers and some other designers to try some stuff and to have passion about it and try some new styles and try some new gameplay mechanics and all that kind of stuff to really propel the market that way.
And I hope because it's the first game in a long time that's had such a long development period that didn't suck when it came out. Because I think, that was a big fear for me when it came out. I was like, man, every other time a game's taken, fucking forever to come out,
I don't know what you're talking about. Duke Nukem was the best game ever.
But that's not the only example. Like, there's tons of examples of games that were in development hell for like 10 years and they came out and were garbage. And I mean, the benefit is this didn't have to work around like, oh, we have to get to the newest engine because we've got to be the best graphics and everything. It's like, no, it knew what it was from the beginning and it knew it could do that. From like, it had an engine it could work on from the day it started development, which helps. But I do really hope that this leads to new things and leads to companies being like, we can take a long time on a game if we really care about it. Especially some indie games that usually throw themselves out. What we were talking about before we started recording, like there's pre-alpha stuff all the time where you're expected to hand over, $20, $30 to a game that's not even kind of done.
And that a finished product game can be $20 and still make plenty of money off of it. And that it doesn't need multi-million-dollar budgets and giant design teams and a $60 price tag in order to even hope to break even.
Right.
You can sell it at a much less price. We'll get more people involved, get more people wanting to play it, and still make a great product that has quality and polish to it.
Yeah. It's weird to me that the gaming industry doesn't have like there's the indie market, but it's always self-supporting. It's never like you don't see a lot of big developers that have like an indie team that they kind of like that's where they let people get their feet wet kind of thing. But because even like network TV has that with like FX and FXX and stuff, like they have those like testing ground areas for people to see if they're worthy of being able to come to the next level. And it's like, I mean, obviously like every sports team has like their farm teams and stuff. It's weird to see in gaming, and because it makes it be so easy to have that, and it wouldn't be some outlandish idea to have like a farm team of programmers and designers that work together to make these passion projects and do these smaller things that can be just as good, to see if they can come up and work on these giant teams to make some stuff.
I think that the industry as a whole just kind of has like this identity crisis of we need to make our games look the best and gameplay comes second. Like if you look at like Mass Effect Andromeda, which they just closed that studio down, and after the game was made, like the game looked okay. They spent all this time making the game look super awesome. Then it still came out, had wonky animations.
Yeah.
And then the gameplay itself was just kind of meh. Where I feel like if they would have focused on the gameplay and had graphics that weren't as good, I feel like they could have came out more. Because when you look at all the games that are all these up and coming games, like they're not like the most like PUBG is like one of the most played games on Steam right now, and the game looks like garbage. It just functionally is awesome and plays great. Like you can drive a car and jump out, and your character is like stuck in a wonky like standing animation when you jump out of a car. That is fine as long as the game plays great and is fun. And I don't think that these big AAA companies are understanding that.
Yeah, it's just it's something we see, especially on Steam. Like, and you can see it in the ports of Steam games to consoles, where like these companies don't totally understand what people enjoy about them, because it happens a lot with like 7 Days to Die is a good example. Like Ark is another one where it has a good online following because it works as a PC game for one. Playing any of those games on a console controller sucks. It's such a pain in the ass. But I think that it's one of those things where they look at it and they're like, oh, people like this, put it here, put it up on this thing. And so it's they're going to the place where all the innovation is and not looking at what's innovative about it and just being like, make it work for our thing. We don't want to figure it out. Just take it and put it in there. Put it in. That's just the AAA gaming industry. Like, make the thing everyone likes in our thing. Okay, that's silence. All right, that's an interesting. Okay,
That was a silence of agreements.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that doesn't read well on audio, guys.
Fuck them.
There's got to be some sound.
Insert audio nodding.
And then they nodded in agreement. Oh, if I can just start doing that, I'm gonna make it seem like you guys agree with everything I say. That's a weird power I have as the guy who edits this stuff.
This is awkward.
I mean, not that I edit it. FT edits
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
I don't.
Thank
I
you.
don't do any of it.
Hi, future Tony. I haven't talked to you in a while.
Disagreements right now.
You can't nod in disagreeance. That is shaking your
He's
head.
nodding in disagreements.
Ugh. So, that's Cuphead. We talked about Cuphead. We did it. We stayed on topic for a while. That was neat.
Do you think so? Where do you where do you
Kind
think in terms of the level of difficulty of Cuphead that we'll see of the industry? Do you think that people are going to take that and go, it's fun to make games hard again?
Well, I think it depends on the type of difficulty people perceive it as too. Because like playing Cuphead, because I did beat it. When I first started playing it, it just seemed hard. I was just like, this is hard. I'm not good at this. Everything's difficult. And even like there was moments throughout the entire game where it just felt overwhelmingly difficult. But the game's pretty, I won't say easy, but it gives you everything you need to succeed. It's a lot of memorization stuff, like the old arcade games style stuff, where you have to the more you play it, the more you learn where stuff is. You learn how the enemies work. And you've got to really go through them a few times to figure all that out. But it's not insanely difficult. It's not like a game that someone couldn't just pick up and start to figure out on their own. Where like a Dark Souls, if you've never played a Dark Souls before, and someone just hands you controller, like, go at it, man, and you'd have no idea what the hell to do. This one, it's if you have the time with it, and especially after I beat it, and like looking back on it, I'm like, it wasn't as hard as everyone's making it out to be. It's a very beatable game from the beginning. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do it, and then it allows you to play to your own play style, like with the customization that it has. It's not a lot of customization, but it gives you enough pieces to let you kind of decide how you want to fight the game and how you want to go through everything. So it lets you play to your strengths as you get through those first levels and start to build up. So I think that as far as difficulty goes, if we start seeing more games like this, I think that's a huge benefit. I think games that aren't super easy out the gate and and even the games that aren't super hard, the hand holdiness of games today is just fucking annoying. I can't stand it when a game takes 20 minutes to drag me through a tutorial explaining it. It's like fucking what the A button does is a 3-paragraph explanation of what I need to know about the A button in this game. And this one, it's a 20-second, 30-second tutorial.
Yeah,
and
that you can skip.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. And really, the only thing in it that you couldn't figure out on your own, just by like understanding of those games, is the parry. That okay, pink things I can parry. Like that's really the only information in the tutorial that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if we start to see more difficult games, but I think the last couple of years we have seen games getting harder. I hope it's in this way where it's not about being impossible.
It's interesting because it's going to be dependent on the style of the game too.
Yeah.
This being a classic run and gun platformer, Contra style shooter, all that kind of stuff, it really harkens to being able to do that, of the old arcade classics of having to pump quarters into something to keep going and all that kind of stuff, and quick deaths and, like you said, the memorization and everything. Whereas something like Dark Souls is very very hard, very fair in the same vein, but it's that RPG style.
Yeah.
So then you take that, and how many other styles of games can we make a frustratingly yet fair game out of it,
right,
and still be fun to the end user, to where it's not a throw your controller through the TV screen kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because in the age of gaming, when difficulty was important, it was the arcade games, and then it was the arcade ports, and then there was the whole like we were talking about earlier, the rental idea of keeping games harder so that people rent.
Tell the story that you were telling us outside, because I think I didn't know that until you told it today.
Yeah, so, and it's from the internet, so who knows if it's true or not.
Yeah, fuck it.
But we were reading I was reading an article about classic ways that games kind of told fuck you to cheaters. And it was talking about the wonderful Lion King game, And everyone remembers that awful second
God.
level. But really what it was saying is that the developers at Disney had told the design team that they did not want the game to be something that you could beat in a rental period. And so it was kind of taking from the old arcade philosophy of you want to make it as hard as possible to get as many quarters in that machine as possible, and translating it.
I'm not a man or a woman, but I lead this place, damn it. Glad we were looking at a trans joke in there.
That's rare.
It's the trans Doctor Who. He's a trans lord. Sexuality does not hold him. That's awful.
He's just sitting there like, what did I get myself into? I don't even like you guys.
No, it's fair. I'll just sit quiet.
It is fair that you don't like us. That is totally fair.
I just met you outside. Like, I was like, hey, man, what's up? And you were like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And I was like, what's that? Sure.
Dude, it's not the first time that's happened. There was a time, not to get, fuck it, we haven't gone off the rails.
Keep
yet.
going.
Here we go. So I was, I'm in an improv troupe because of course I am. You guys have heard what I talk about on the channel. You guys play games with me. This makes sense. But the person who scheduled the show, because I was supposed to open for the show, doing stand up, and they didn't tell anyone there was a show that night, so no one showed up. But it's me, Todd, who's been on the channel before, and Josh, who's part of the channel. Or no, Josh wasn't there that night, so it was just me and Todd because we were opening. And Sean, I don't think I can use his last name. I almost threw it out there, but I won't. Our buddy Sean, who was a bartender at Bent River and hangs out a lot, he used to do improv. So he comes by on his bike, and we're outside smoking, and I'm like, Sean, what are you doing right now? He's like, I'm going home. I'm like, you want to do an improv show? Because we don't have a cast. So it wouldn't even be close to the first time I've just yelled at someone on the street to come be a part of something.
Well, even the pizza guy.
Yeah, DJ Ham.
DJ Ham.
That was Cody's introduction to Loot Suits.
The infamous
DJ Ham episode.
DJ Ham.
Yes.
Oh,
I aspire to be DJ Ham, but that man is a mythical creature of legend.
dude, I never seen him again. We purposely ordered pizzas at the same time on the same day of the week to see if he'd come back. And
Well,
tried
we
it different
started
nights.
calling Domino's during the live stream,
Yeah.
trying to get him to come.
We wanted DJ Ham, and we couldn't get him. But that was just a weird experience all around. Just making stuff make noise, Cody. If that picked up, and we're back. Cody fucked up the recording, so it was figured out. But we're back. Okay, that was weird. But it's for you guys. It wasn't for you. That nothing happened. We could have pretended nothing happened, but now I've said it 4 times. So.
Somebody
He
once
once told me
it.
it's time to start the Loot Cast.
What are we talking about?
Well, see, I was wondering if I could bring it back a little bit. 'cause-
You don't get to wonder things.
I-
You ruined the podcast.
But I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it right now. We're going to bring it back. We're talking about difficulties of games. And I also thought about the fact that we have played games together. And sometimes games are fun when they are super easy. And that game is called Dino Frontier.
Oh my God, yes. That game was a blast. And it was so easy and so simple. It's a VR, PlayStation VR game. And all it's like a sim game, like an old sim game where you build a little town, like Sim City sort of, but like Wild West with dinosaurs. And
Go on.
yeah.
Yes.
So you build buildings and you can get more settlers. The higher level you get, you can add more people to your town, and you can make them go capture dinosaurs, and then you can train them, and then you can just have your people ride around on dinosaurs and go fight other bigger dinosaurs.
That's
and
amazing.
bandits and shit. It's one of the coolest things ever. We played it for like an hour.
We played it for way longer than we should have for what it is. But the game is not hard. It's super easy.
Yeah, there's nothing difficult about it. Even if your people die, you have like 5 minutes to realize that and take them to the medic.
Just drop them off with your godly fingers.
Yeah, and you don't have to like send someone to go get them. You are God, and then you just pick people up, and you're just okay. Now you're here. and then they'll do whatever thing you set them next to.
Well, and I obviously haven't played this game, but one of the best for me in gaming is that rewarding moment when you hit that break even point where the game is hard, and you hit that point where you have the correct power ups and items and skill tree and whatever the hell kind of game you're playing, to where then everything's a little bit downhill and you are just mowing through fuckers,
Right?
you know, and then you just feel awesome. And then the really, really brilliant games then know how to notch it up again.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, that's the best thing a game could do is like, we're just gonna let you run through this shit for a while and just have fun with all the shit you have.
Right.
And then it's just a wall. It's like you're flying downhill on a unicycle, and then someone threw a log in the way.
And something like Doom did that really well.
Yeah.
Where, you know, every time you unlock a new weapon, then you'd happen to have all these enemies that were just super slaughterable with this new weapon. And then you finish that one room and you turn a fucking corner and there's something that weapon is bullshit against.
Yep.
And you have no goddamn chance. And you get your head crushed in until the next time. And then you're back on that training path again to be better and better and better until you hit that next step.
And that's something like the newer Doom kind of lost that.
Yeah.
You didn't have that back and forth. That there was no like ebb and flow.
No,
to the
it was
game
just
at all.
straight murder the entire time.
See, I don't know.
just like-
I would argue that the reboot of Doom is the best reboot that's ever come out of video games.
Oh, it is a fun game. I'm not saying it's not a good game, but it's not as memorable as any of the other
no,
Doom
like
games.
that game is literally what it should be, which is heavy metal, kill fucking demons with big fucking guns.
When you first get past Tilda Swinton and get to go fight things, I will. We reference
Tilda Swinton!
Tilda Swinton. But when you get to go like fight stuff, and the first time you hit a wave of enemies, it's like
Also, the soundtrack, man.
oh, it was amazing.
That soundtrack. And the way they put it together. Of just, I'm going to write like 45 choruses and 45 verses and put them in this giant fucking bowl and just pick them out randomly.
Yep. Woo!
And it's going to all be seamless. And oh, you're in a battle? Here's this other group of choruses and verses. Deal with it. Oh, and somehow we're still going to be able to produce an OST for this. Like,
right? Like, I haven't just listened to the soundtrack alone. I need to, because I just need to hear what the hell it is.
it makes you want to kill things.
yeah, it really does.
Does it make you like, I need to be shooting stuff?
When it's still the way they pace it is it just hits that drive and it's just a slow build and then you're just like, oh, this is when I'm supposed to murder a room full of things. Oh no, I'm done now. Okay, cool.
Can you imagine how hard it is to compose music so that it can, at the pace of the player, be one thing for this entire time, but at any moment it has to be able to like switch to something else? That I'm not a musically inclined person. I write dumb comedy songs if I write songs. So I can't even fathom trying to think of that. To be like, I wrote this so at any point this beautiful music can become a death metal band.
Yep.
And it works no matter what.
An electronic death metal band.
Yeah.
Well, and just the pacing of the entire game. I mean, the music follows it to a T.
Yeah.
From
It's nuts.
the first step you take out of the little chamber.
Well, unless you spend an hour running in circles trying to figure out where that door is, like we did, then eventually the soundtrack does fall out.
Yeah, then it's just like calm music of please find the door.
I love when you've been playing a game long enough and you like get stuck for long enough that the soundtrack is just gone.
Yep.
And there's just those background sounds of what's happening in the rooms that you're around. It's like, oh wow.
And it's
the game has given up on me.
it's
It's just left
awkwardly
me here.
silent. Yeah. Because you're not like, especially when you're playing alone, but like you're just like staring at it, being like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Just
I don't know what I'm doing.
It's almost like the game is like, we'll stop distracting you. Please find the door.
It's like, okay, fucko. Let's focus up a little bit here because you need to move on. We are out of song for this room.
It's like when you're driving and like you get to a point and you have to like turn down the music even though it does not help you at all. You're like, where is my turn? Hold on, let me turn down the music.
Yeah. I need to turn down my music so I can see better.
I just imagine it like in games like Zelda. Like if you're like at the fairy fountain, and what if you just like stayed in there for a really long time and then the music stopped and it's just like her just like, get the fuck out. I'm done with you. God, terrifying polygon woman who I don't even care, oddly super hot. Always.
Oh, yeah.
It makes no sense. Because I look at, like, I could go back and play the game now, and it'd be like, she's so not hot, but she's still hot.
I think you're just imagining what a fully rendered version of her would look like, where
Yeah.
she does not have triangle
Well,
boobs.
well, think about it. I mean,
think it's about
think
seeing
about
a real
how
woman with triangle boobs.
how polished we all thought that game looked
right?
as kids.
Oh yeah.
How real that looked. Oh my God, look at those 3D graphics on the N64. Holy
man.
shit. You know, and even like Laura Croft was a fucking sex symbol with triangle boobs. You know, like at that point, it was doing what it was supposed to. It was telling the story in the best visual way possible.
Yeah.
And we were amazed by it, and we filled in the gaps.
Yeah. And I mean that's perfect. Like
Right.
that's
And
that's good storytelling.
had technology never taken over from that and gotten better, I think we would still see the games that way.
Yeah.
Now we just have something to compare it to. And what makes it worse is then we do HD reboots of everything.
yeah. Man. Whoa.
And therefore you can never play old technology ever again.
right.
Because I played, you know, even GameCube when they rebooted Ocarina of Time with the Master Quest
Yeah.
for the pre-sale, as we also talked about.
Yeah.
The pre-sale of Wind Waker. When they rebooted that, and I played that, and then my wife was playing through on the N64, you know, a couple years ago, and I was looking at it, I'm like, God, this game looks like garbage. Like, this was the pinnacle of everything that I ever wanted
Right?
in video gaming when I was a kid. And now it is hard to play now.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly hard to play.
And that man, I don't care if you love the game, that's fine. Like the game's, I some of the best memories of that game. People who like to this day sit there and say like, well, it's the best. I have to play it all the time. It's the one I'll play the most. I play it on the 64 because it's like fuck you. No, you don't. No one sits and plays that on the 64 all the time because it's fucking hard now. Just because the controls suck. And the hitboxes aren't good, and it's like a lot of messed up things in that game that were fine at the time, but like people who defend it as if there weren't flaws in it make me so mad.
The N64 fandom of like, don't get me wrong, I still have mine. I still love it. I bring it out every once in a while
Yeah.
and play it. But
dude,
like,
for sure.
like everyone's like, oh yeah, we still play GoldenEye. No, fuck you.
No, you
No
fucking
one
don't.
can play GoldenEye anymore.
And like, because we fucking try. Anytime
Yes, it's impossible.
Because we've got a few places around here we can go to, like the arena or analog, where we can go play GoldenEye, or even when Aaron had the 64 at his house, like every like 6 months or so, it's fun to play a couple rounds of GoldenEye, and then it's, well, that was great. Let's never do this again. It's almost makes you sick trying to play GoldenEye now.
right.
Well, you play GoldenEye until you end up being so frustrated by the guy who's playing Oddjob, because since you can't aim in that game, the only person that can actually kill people is Oddjob, that you just punch him in the dick, and then that's when you finish the
yeah.
game.
Good old slappers only.
Oh, dude, Slappers Only is the only way to play that game.
Are you guys for or against HD reboots then?
I think that we do them too often, but I don't really. I mean, this is the thing. If there's a fan base behind a game that would
Personally, I love them
yeah,
because exactly that is the taking a game that has the nostalgia to it and also has but then giving it modernized controls, modernized graphics, and fixing some of the problems that it did have makes it all that better. Will it ever replace the original game? No. Because by fixing some of those problems, they take inherently out what was good about that game.
right. And my issue right now with some HD remasters and reboots and things is now we're taking games that aren't that old, that there's not a lot in that gap.
Right. We're taking last generation console
Yeah,
games.
like The Last of Us is getting a remaster. Why? It doesn't, because and that's where it's like, oh, this is a cash grab. This is just for money. Because you could release just a port of the game. It's not even a port. Just fucking put it. You can put it digitally on the store.
well, they
for
fucking
PS4.
have. It's on the
Yeah,
PlayStation
I think
Play.
it's been on there for a while.
It's on PlayStation Play.
Yeah, so it's there. And even if it wasn't on that, like if you could put it up there for a price, and people would pay for it that want it on their next gen console. But when you're like, oh, well, if we do something different to it, we can charge more. Why? What? Who's that helping at that point? And people are gonna buy it.
Yeah.
That's what's weird to me.
I mean, the biggest aggressor of this is Bethesda right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, how many different ways can you release Skyrim?
And we still have one more coming out next month in
Yeah.
VR.
Yep. There's still another version of Skyrim coming out.
MS-DOS Skyrim.
This is what they're doing. They are trying really hard to not have to work on the next Elder Scrolls game.
Well, have you seen it's an exponential process, right?
Yeah.
Because we're up to what? It's going to have to be 7 years between the last release of Skyrim and whatever 6 is going to be.
So they're like, as long as we keep releasing Skyrim, we have more time.
Todd Howard's just swimming in his pool of money going, ha, 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 let's release it for something else. Quick, when's the next console coming out?
Also, I
heard someone confirm the PS5. Start remastering it.
I don't think that the Switch version has come out yet either. So
No, that one still has to
actually
come
there's
out.
2 more versions coming out.
Which would put because Skyrim came out for the Wii U, correct?
No.
Or was it?
No.
I know it was slated to at one point.
Well, it never did.
Did it get pulled?
Mhm.
Okay, I can remember if that one ever actually happened. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise anybody if it was actually out there.
I mean, how
I
many
bet
times-
there's a PS Vita version of Skyrim floating around somewhere.
It wouldn't surprise me.
like 16 mini discs.
Oh man, share play. It's what that system's all about. That's like the big feature. Said no one ever.
Yeah, no one knows anything about the PS Vita.
Yeah, you can.
Did you just try to like make something up about it and then realize you
I
didn't
was,
even like have
yeah.
a general idea of what it was?
That's exactly. I was like, I'm gonna try and make a joke about the PS
I
Vita.
heard it. I heard the. Yeah, but, oh, never mind.
Yeah, pretty much. I had a thought.
And I was like,
It
yeah,
wasn't a good one.
Mike just went for a joke and then realized that there's no information to pull from.
All I want from HD remasters is please, for the love of fucking God, give me a Time Splitters HD remake.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Like, where are the games like that?
Yeah.
Where's Blink's the Time Sweeper?
Okay, let's not go there.
I love that game.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that game too. But then I realized that like when I grew up as an adult, and I was like, oh, like they just were trying to combat Sly.
Yeah, but it was super cool.
He had a vacuum.
Yeah, he was a fucking Ghostbuster of time.
I mean,
Fair enough.
I
You know
mean,
what?
Sly got an
you
HD reboot.
you
so-
completely won me over.
Sly got a reboot, so
I think that actually, I want to say that Blinks was one of the games in the original Xbox lineup that is backwards compatible to the Xbox One now. But I could
was
be
it
wrong.
on the? I don't think it was on the list of games that is yet.
But I'm knowing Microsoft, they probably will eventually.
I hope so.
Please play Blinks. Let us know that you want another one.
Yeah, dude, I'll play the shit out of that game. Are you kidding me? And I'm sure I'll hate every second of it.
Oh yeah.
Because I haven't played that since I bought my Xbox. The Xbox.
Now I
want to
pull my GameCube out and play Time Splitters 2.
Time Splitters 2 and Time Splitters Future Perfect.
Your GameCube
damn.
is sitting over there.
I know it is. I see it.
We're leaving the podcast and playing Time Splitters.
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening. We have some Time Splitters to play. But no, I do think it's strange the games that are chosen sometimes for HD remakes, and I wish that there was more input to give. But I mean, I don't even know where you begin on some of that stuff legally to be able to.
Well, there's some where I'm surprised they haven't done it. I'm surprised there hasn't been HD reboots of older Grand Theft Autos.
yeah.
You know, that's an easy cash grab for Rockstar. And granted, now all they're doing is just pumping out microtransactions for 5 until the day they die.
Well,
and Red
now-
Dead 2.
To be fair, in the new trailers for the new Red Dead, I don't think you'd see much difference in an HD remaster of their old stuff.
So, you know, but like 3 or Vice City, you know,
Yeah.
those guys. You know,
Well, San Andreas was remastered for the 360.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can buy 3 and Vice City on and San Andreas on the PlayStation 4 digitally, but they're not actually HD remakes.
Right.
But yes, you are correct. Like if they
God, can you imagine playing 3? Like if you got the PS4 Pro and did like had a 4K TV and then played Grand Theft Auto 3 on your 4K.
it still does like the 2-block draw distance.
I don't even know what that would look like on a screen that big, only having that much space.
It's completely off topic, but fuck it, we're going there.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not related to Cuphead. We can't talk about it.
Well, talking about old Grand Theft Auto, it reminded me of when we used to play Vice City at my buddy Dan's house We were in a band, and by being in a band, I meant we played Grand Theft Auto Vice City while our instrument sat behind us. And so we would always talk about how in programming then, whenever you would get in a car, there'd be a million of them on the road. You know, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, or even if you'd have like a scooter, then all of a sudden there's just a million fucking scooters everywhere. Well, I bought that truck yesterday. I now realized every motherfucker in this city drives a fucking pickup truck. Never noticed it before, but all I see is trucks everywhere. And I'm like, oh shit, Grand Theft Auto. It's real life.
Oh, dude, it happened with the Yaris too. When I got the Yaris, I didn't know what a Yaris was before I bought the Yaris. I looked for my car exploded. I had to find a cheap car, and the dealership down the street from me had a Yaris that was the cheapest thing they had on the lot. And I was like, fuck it, that's what I'm gonna drive from now on. And I was driving in town, and I'm like, there are like fucking Yarises everywhere. Like, what? How did I not know this car existed?
Art imitating life.
Yeah, it's nuts. I really hope that was just like one coder had just gotten a car and then realized that, and he's like, okay, you know what? I'm putting this in the game.
It's real.
This exists. So I'm putting it in the game now.
I just remember like the one Banshee in the entire fucking game in that storeroom in 3. You steal it, and then all of a sudden there's a Banshee on every fucking block.
Yep.
And you're like, God damn it.
Do you think it was just like coded that way because it was easier to pull assets?
It's gotta be.
Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Just be like, oh, well, this is an asset we already have.
And it would, and you, if I remember correctly, you could even see the cycle. You know, where there'd be like 3 or 4 cars deep of cars that you had recently driven would kind of be the primary traffic.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's just whatever was in the RAM for it. That was just kind of the easiest thing to pull.
Whatever we've had to pull, this
Yeah.
is what's going to keep being pushed out until it gets pushed back out of the queue.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing how far video games have come when you think about like they actually had to worry about memory allocation and things like that in terms of like how many different vehicles we have. Oh, we can only have 2? Cool, we can only have 2.
Right.
My friend actually is a sound engineer he was a sound engineer for a video game company not too far from here, and he would always tell me that he loves sound. He'd always get super pissed off when they'd have to sound is typically the first thing to go when it comes to saving memory.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, oh, that sweet awesome thing that you compose, yeah, just make it a couple just instrumental things. Like doesn't have to be too special, like a guitar riff. That sounds about right.
Well, that's where Nintendo always excelled, was like with a little bit of sound being able to create some of the most memorable stuff.
Was it you and I who watched that video of sound designers talking sound?
I don't think so.
It's a brilliant video. We'll have to find it and link it in the description or something.
Yeah, I'll throw
it's
FT will throw it in the description.
Yeah, it's it's old school sound designers from the industry and some who have made some really, really iconic things. And all they do is whoever's putting this on, it's kind of a React video, but it's more nitty gritty in actual technical terms and everything. But they play a sound of the coin in Mario, and then they just talk about that sound.
Oh yeah, we did watch this together. I
And
do know what you're talking about
so
now.
fucking cool to watch all these guys just nerd out about one little blip of sound,
Right?
and how this changed the industry because of this, and he was able to take 8-bit sound and trick it into being 16-bit sound, and just them talking about all of this cool stuff, and you're just like the engineering that goes into it and all that kind of stuff. And now it's so fucking not simple. I mean, creating full orchestrations and producing it is still a fuck ton of work.
But like the technical side of the work when it comes to putting it into the product.
Yeah, it's oh,
like,
here's a file.
Yeah. Like there's none of that. Like, okay, we've got to figure out how to manipulate this so that it doesn't get destroyed in the code.
Right. And so it still sounds good. And, making shit on MIDI sound good
is insane.
Or like the hoops you used to have to jump through on a personal computer to make actual sound come out of it.
Right.
And not just PC speaker bullshit. You'd have to have like 14 different adapter card. You have to have a sound blaster and an ad lib and a MIDI port and all that shit, and you'd have to know which one is doing which sound effects.
Well, like the fact that now like you can build a computer and look at it and it's like, do you want to get a custom like a bigger sound card? No, if it's got a headphone jack, I'm good. I can do whatever I want with that.
Right.
Like that'll cover all my bases for sound.
Or shit, you don't even need that because half the headphones you can get now are USB.
Yeah. I mean, like there's so many just like, oh, I don't need to worry about this shit anymore. And like to think like the first home computers, it was like once you were able to have sound and shit, it was like this process to do all of it. And oh, it's nuts. I think that was the same video where it was also just like made me realize like how many iconic sounds there are. I'm just like, you hear it and it's like I instantly know what that is.
Yeah.
It's nuts how much of an imprint sound has on things.
And if I remember correctly, it was also really cool because a lot of the sounds they played were some that these guys had created.
Yeah.
And seeing the pride in their own work was also really, really fun and really rewarding. Because they'd talk about their own process and how they, came up with this stuff. And it's just the incredible amount of work of what those guys had to go through in the dawn of this industry in order to get us even close to where we are today is just really, really fun. And
I think one of my favorite ones was the and this might have been a different video, but I think it was the same one. The AOL dial-up sound.
Mm-hmm.
And how the dude was like, that's just noise from two computers sending things back and forth. And I'm like, what? How did you capture the sound going through a wire? Like, how did you pick up the digital noise of these computers trying to communicate? That's insane to me.
See, my favorite soundbite that I've ever seen how they made it was they took a bowl of mayonnaise and then a power drill and put the power drill in the mayonnaise, and that's how they used to chainsaw somebody up in a game.
What?
Yep.
A drill and a bowl of mayonnaise. God, Foley art makes me so happy.
it does. Oh, it's brilliant.
It's so much fun. Oh God. That was a weird tangent we just got off on.
So Cuphead.
Yeah. Wow.
This is what happens when your new person on the podcast decides to get a text message and ruin the entire thing.
Yeah, because that's really the turning point of this whole podcast was when
we were totally straight up.
Yeah, we'd really held on to the topic at hand until we had to restart the fucking podcast in the middle.
All right, guys, it was awesome. I'll never see you ever again.
Well, let's get back to a little bit of the topic, I suppose. Which I think when we trailed off, we were talking about just difficulty in games, pretty much. The last podcast we were drawing close to the end here, I think. So at the end of the last one, I asked a question to Khalil and Scalisi. So I'll do the same here. It's like, what would you guys consider the hardest game that you've played? And I know that can take a minute to think about because I have to think about mine because there are a lot of games that I've played.
Are we just talking pure difficulty? Because
I would say just the most difficult game that you've played.
Because the thing is like, to me, like one of the most difficult thing ever is I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. Love Metal Gear Solid. But if you want to play those games absolutely perfect, that can be one of the most difficult things that you ever play. But if I just go through and play the game, it's not a hard game at all.
I would say just general play difficulty, like as just trying to play the game and beat it. Like, what's one of the hardest games you've ever played?
Well, because I suck at them, I would say any Mega Man game ever made.
Mega Man's definitely on my list. And man, I when we were replaying it because we did it on the show. I thought, oh, this is just because I'm doing the commentary and everything, and it's distracting me. But I played it because I just start practicing when Mike wasn't around. And no, it's just as hard as it was when I was younger. It made me feel like after all the years of me playing games, I've not actually gotten any better at anything.
Yeah, like if you were to challenge me in like Dark Souls to shot for shot per death, I would totally accept. But if you did the same thing for Mega Man, I would say fuck you.
And that's what's cool about just games in general. Like the things that it's different for everybody. Because like for me, I would say that Dark Souls is harder than Mega Man overall. I'm not good at it. I suck at Dark Souls. And if you can tell me to get good all you want, I can't. I can't get good at that game. I'm not terrible at it, but like I can't. I always have to like summon some helpers or some shit to get through a boss fight. And I've not played the first two. I started playing the first one recently, but I've only played the third one for an extended amount of time, and I can't even parry. I can't get the parry timing right.
Well, the problem is also if you go from one game to the other, the parry times like are super different. And change up.
That's what I've been told.
But my personal favorite is 2, but Bloodborne I think is the perfect in that formula of mixing risk versus reward with if I'm super aggressive, I could be rewarded, but I have to know when to back off.
Oh shit, that's the thing we needed to talk about. I'm glad you said that because I wanted to talk about that and we didn't. So me and Mike can think about our games now too. I wanted to kind of touch on like what to you guys, like what point does a game become so difficult that there's not that balance of reward to it? There's no payoff just because it's just so insanely hard. Because that's one thing Cuphead does very well. There's a payoff all the time, and you always feel accomplished after you get through something. And Dark Souls is the same way. Like it feels rewarding to finish something, and I think that they do it in different ways, but they both work on that amount of like tension they put you into, of like, especially, as you can, you're with Cuphead, it's you hit the different phases. With Dark Souls, you can see the health meter. You're like getting closer and closer, but also that you're still at that brink of failure. So you just get so tense that when you do it, it's just this big release and reward, and it's a very calming experience afterwards. It's just like, oh, thank God. But what games don't have that? I would say Mega Man's an example of something that doesn't have as much of a payoff. But that one,
even though you get the boss rewards, you get the robot rewards.
I think the payoff to that one is almost more getting to the boss.
Yeah, because the levels are the frustrating part.
The bosses, while they can be difficult, if you have the right matchup, they're pretty easy. Except for Fireman. Fuck Fireman.
Well, that's more. I mean, Mega Man's always a war of attrition.
Yeah,
you always want to get to the level with as much health as possible. Knowing that you're gonna get hit. And
I think that's where that payoff is. Because when you get to the boss and have full health, that's like the coolest feeling in the world. Yeah. So I think it does it by making the level its difficult point as opposed to the boss fights.
Well, it is also more painful when you get to the boss with full health and then still die.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we cheated when we played, and I used the save feature in the remaster.
Frustratingly hard with no payoff is literally any first-person shooter ever, with a veteran mode or
any like.
I remember there was a large stretch of time in my gaming life where if I had a Call of Duty game, I was gonna beat that motherfucker on veteran, and I did. I Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops, all that shit, World at War, because it was doable, but it was a fucking grind, and then. Woo! Gamer score went up a little bit.
Yep, I would say a game that did it better than that, as far as like a payoff a little bit, and not as much so. And it might have been because of when it came out. The first Halo, I think, if you beat that on Legendary, it felt way better.
But even
I think it's because of what the game takes away from you as you go up on difficulties. That doing that, it was like, well, I did it without the crutches the game gives me.
Right.
So maybe that's where the payoff came from that. Because I remember it's the only one I did it with. I never beat another Halo game on Legendary.
We've talked about it where it's fair and it being your fault. Again, Cuphead, all this shit. If you die, it's your fault.
Yeah.
And you take ownership of it. Whereas just spawning a million extra enemies.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Especially fucking World at War. Every 10 seconds, there's a fucking grenade indicator.
Yeah.
Right now. There's no fairness in that.
It becomes less about your skill as a player.
When we were playing Mass Effect.
Yeah.
And I said I wouldn't fucking finish the level or I wouldn't drink milk after I ate the pepper until I finished the level. And we had it on hard. And it was literally just constant respawning of enemies in a room.
Yeah.
That I eventually had to get so pissed off at myself because I was dying.
You also really wanted milk.
I did. That I just had to fucking run and hope. And after 2 tries of that, I accomplished more in that than I did in 15 minutes of actually trying to play the game the correct way.
Yeah, when the difficulty of a game destroys the core mechanics of that game, I think that's where you can see a problem in difficulty scaling. Because like you said, like throwing a bunch of extra enemies isn't the same thing as, you know, making a difficult but doable mission. Like if it changed something mechanically, which is hard to do in a first person, like I understand the point of it.
Well,
Like
I think the biggest problem with first person shooters specifically is they're endless waves. Like I can't just beat a wave off and then move forward. I have to
wave off, but I can.
I have to like inch
Beat it off with
forward
your
until I
mouth.
get the next like
And-
objective point.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing is you hope to kill spawn points. You don't hope to kill enemies. You hope to kill spawn points.
Yeah.
You know, and again, veteran and whatever just means there's more spawn points with a greater release rate.
Yep.
And
In that, I think it's almost a problem of like it's like residual of like top down shooters, where it's like, oh well, to make a top down shooter harder, you just add more enemies, which makes sense because it's a top down shooter. There's
Right.
not a whole lot else
well,
going on
yeah,
there.
bullet hell is fine because you see
Yeah.
the fucking bullets.
Yeah.
Like you can again, that makes it, and there are bad ones, but it
Oh,
makes
of course.
it makes it fair and doable. Where this one, it's just shit.
Yeah. It also leads to a lot of like, oh well, fuck, I didn't know that 20 guys spawned behind me
Right.
because I can only see in this one range this direction.
Right.
And you know the indication of oh I'm being hit in the back. By the time you start to turn, you're dead.
Right.
So it's just that I think first person shooters have always struggled with making more difficult lead to more reward.
Yeah. I mean, again, and very rarely is there any real payoff to it
Yeah.
outside of a achievement or a trophy or whatever. You know, like I know, but the big one I remember is that the
Mile High Club.
Mile High Club. I spent hours upon hours on veteran. It almost goes back to the whole thing of memorizing that airplane
Yeah.
and getting an extra foot every time to the point where I could fucking do that thing with my eye closed and then end up shooting the president in the head anyway.
I do think that Mile High Club is fair though, because it's not like infinitely spawning. You were learning.
I
every
think that
single
one
time.
that's more fair than the rest of the game.
A little bit more rewarding because it'd be like, hey man, did you beat Mile High Club on veteran? No, you didn't. Well, you fucking suck.
Yeah, it is one of my proudest gamer score or one of my proudest achievements that I have on the gamer tag. But holy fuck, the first time I beat it and then shot the fucking president in the head.
Oh no.
That controller almost went through the fucking. That was my one big like rage moment of gaming that I've ever really actively remember. It was freshman or sophomore year in college, and I'm pretty sure the entire fucking dorm heard me.
Oh, do you want to know the only time I've ever broken a controller from a game? This is pissing me off beyond belief. This was two years ago. When did I work at the museum? Was that 2 years ago? A year ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So I had and this is not gonna be like what you'd expect of the game that pissed me off to breaking a controller. I had NFL Blitz 99 on my laptop.
Go on.
I got into one of those exhibition games where the game just decided you're not winning this one. No matter what you do, you're losing.
Game be
like
cheating.
Blitz would do.
Game be cheating.
Well, Blitz of all games would just out of nowhere be like, no, every pass is an interception. Doesn't matter. We're going to find a way to fuck you over. And I've gotten very lucky playing against other people where that was a thing that just started happening. Or like they fumbled all the time. Like, awesome. But it happened to me alone. And it was like, I'd been playing it all day. And I couldn't beat like this one. I was trying to get like all the teams beat on my computer, and I couldn't beat the last team. I think it was the Cardinals, which just pissed me off even more. And I threw my 7th interception of the game, picked the controller up by the cord, whipped it in the air, and slammed it into the ground, and then just walked outside to smoke a cigarette. And I came back in, and there's just shattered pieces of controller everywhere. And I'm like, Blitz did this to me. A game that I haven't played since I was 5 did this to me.
And you bring up a good point. Sports games is the other one that's going to have a big problem finding that difficulty balance.
Yeah. And I think sports games kind of like the one good thing I'll say about the new Madden is it kind of found a way to do it. Because if you play on rookie, it'll do a lot of the moves for you, like the trucks and the spin moves and the jukes. It'll kind of just do that on its own for the most part. As long as like you show an intention to move at all, it'll do the move for you.
Oh yeah.
You go up to the highest difficulty, it's fucking hard to pull those moves off because it doesn't help you. It's like, no, you have to know the correct way to move the sticks to do this. And I'd say that's about as close as they can get.
Yeah. And again, there's no perfect formula on how to make it better.
Right.
But there's never going to be a payoff for playing harder either.
There's not as much of a payoff except for like knowing like, oh, I fucking nailed that juke. but like outside, like, what is that even as a payoff?
Sports gaming traditionally is not one that has the reward.
No one's ever like going into a new Madden like, man, I've been playing these games for 25 years. This one better have some nice rewards in it.
Got a platinum trophy this Madden.
Oh God.
At least we're not seeing games nowadays that are hard because they are broken. Like I would still see someone.
I'd say there's still some games like that. I have to think of one now that I said that out loud.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
But fuck, I had one in my head when I said it, and now it's gone.
The last one that like I always talk about this because it's the infamous game that I make all of my employees play the first week that they're hired, which is Vampire Reign. It's the worst game ever made. If you haven't played it, we should all play it.
Oh,
sounds like a good episode.
I'm totally down for that.
It literally sounds like they recorded the audio in a closet, like they were just handing the script around one mic. Like that's how bad it, and then the game is so hard.
Is this game played on Philips CDI by chance?
The gameplay itself is just so wonky and hard that it makes the game hard. But then when you get to the bosses, it's like you shoot them in the head and they're just dead in one shot.
Oh.
So, but it's just everything else is just super awful and bad. And yeah, I bought the game brand new when it first came out, day one, $60, and returned it 15 minutes later.
And when did this come out?
Like 2010, like
okay,
2009.
I realized after I said that I was thinking of the Steam games that me and Cleo bought, and I was like, oh, those don't count.
No.
Just because I played them recently, and that's what popped into my head. But yeah, that game sounds fantastic, and like we should totally play it.
It's so bad that it's good. It's almost like 50 Cent Blood in the Sand.
Oh God.
So bad that it is good.
Hey, let's not knock the original either, because 50 Cent Bulletproof is a game.
Sure is.
And I played the shit out of it. To be fair, you could unlock his music videos with half-naked ladies, and I was 14. So
you played a lot of Def Jam as well.
Oh, I played the fuck out of Def Jam. Are you kidding me? I also played Blitz the League because you could get those magazine covers. I knew how to jerk off at night, okay, guys? I knew how to jerk off without my mom ever knowing that I had porn in my room.
That's impressive.
Are you calling your video games porn?
Dude, they were at the time because the computer was in her room, so I couldn't use the computer for anything.
Or BMX Triple X?
No, I didn't have BMX Triple X. My dad bought it, and then me and my brother started playing it, and then he immediately took it back.
Wonder why?
He's like, okay, didn't know it was an actual... Okay, I thought it was just a clever title.
Here's Dave Mira. Snap into a Slim
I was
Jim.
just gonna say, can I ride around as a Slim Jim?
I think he thought it was just a regular BMX game. But then, okay, best part of that story, though, he didn't take it back. We found it 2 years later in his room.
To be fair, this also probably was around the time when the Vin Diesel movie came out.
Yeah, it probably would have been around that time that the first one happened. When Chronicles of Riddick came out. Riddick?
I was talking about Need for Speed. But
Oh, shit. That's not even him.
what?
The Need for Speed movie?
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious is Vin Diesel. Need for
Whatever.
Speed is recent and also Aaron Paul.
I'm pretty sure we literally just mentioned 4 different movies that Vin Diesel is in.
Oh, can we get Pacifier? Is that the one? Is that the one he's in?
No, that's a rock. No,
No.
that is.
Yeah, that's the one where he's the babysitter. The Pacifier. Is
Guardian
always
of the
babysitter.
Galaxy.
Are we just gonna start listing Vin
Guardians
Diesel
of the
movies?
Galaxy.
Ah, shit. What other movies is he? Iron Giant. There we go.
That was gonna be my next one, you motherfucker.
There we go. We got Vin Diesel movies.
We're done.
We did it. That's, you know what? I say that's how we end the podcast. Just a list of Vin Diesel movies. If you're watching this on YouTube, FT, throw a little credit scroll of all of Vin Diesel's movies up. And if you're listening on any other thing, sorry, we can't do anything there. You're just gonna have to.
It's a little bit for our visual audience.
Yeah, just that's a little bit for the people who support the YouTube channel, which is Loot Suits. This is the Loot Cast on Loot Suits, so go check it out. I'm Anthony. You can find me on Twitter at DT_fishboat. Mike, you guys, Cody, you got Twitter?
Yeah, I do actually. It is ICHaile, ISEEHAILE.
Insane Clown Hail. That's what that is.
Please do not ever refer. Somebody thought my sweet tooth tattoo was a insane clown posse tattoo, and it really,
In a way,
it
isn't
ruined
it?
my day.
I don't Twitter.
You don't Twitter?
No.
Man, you and Scalisi don't. I don't
No.
think Cleo had a Twitter either.
I mean, I have one. I just never use it, so there's no
I
point in
gotcha.
giving it to anybody.
I just tweet at celebrities and hope they respond.
Yeah.
That's
The
all
last-
I do.
I believe the last time I physically made a tweet was 2013.
I will say, Loot Suits was throwing some shade at Space Wedgie, the company that made Aruzel, which that's on the channel, you can watch us play Aruzel. It's a Slender clone is all it is, except for it's not a game. It's a terrible representation of what a game should be. And like, it's the most obvious I've ever seen in a video game where it's like, this is the cheapest asset we could get, so that's what we were using, which sometimes you can get away with, except it was for the killer, and it looks like someone pulled a sim out of like Sims 2. It's just this woman with a ponytail who's wearing like this pink and white striped Gap sweater and some jeans. And the first time you see her, she's like posed on a shovel. And then the only other thing she does is walk. When she gets to you, all that does is like the camera and the game falls to the ground. They put no work into this fucking thing. It was so bad. So the Loot Suits tweet was, we've never made a game, which means we're right on the same page with Space Wedgie. And I was like, damn, Loot Suits. And then I remembered I wrote it. So I was damn, me.
I'm just glad you weren't making fun of Space Jam, because that's where I thought you were going when I heard space, because that's literally the first thing that comes to my head is Space Jam.
The Space Jam game was fun. I remember. I think so. I think I enjoyed it. I think it had fun moments to it. I don't think overall it was a very good game.
I don't think we should go back and find out, because let's just let nostalgia have this one.
Funny. You say that. Next time on Loot Suits, we're gonna have Space Jam probably. That'll be the first group loot episode you're on is gonna be Space Jam.
Fair enough.
Well, I have to poop, so I'm gonna go. You guys sign it off. Just tell them we'll be back again someday. Just do it. You guys got the outro.
We will be back again someday.
Somebody once told me that the world was going to roll me.
I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yep, that's it. All right. Signing off.
What? Oh, you need a pooping buddy? Read the shampoo bottle.
There's no poop coming out yet. Where's my
There's no poop coming out yet. He's
No
looking for his
phone?
phone.
Out of my butt. Yeah.
Still can't find his
I
phone.
found it. Okay, poop time.
He found his phone.
All right. What other Vin Diesel movies?
It is time
'Cause I
for
know
him
we
to
were
poop.
wrong. A lot of Chronicles of Riddick.